I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. Our time together is going to be around 15 minutes, give or take. On the surface, this isn't going to sound like it's an SEO podcast because there are no interviews. Just my raw take on the SEO testing that I do, why I do it, and from time to time, share my thoughts about our industry. And you don't need to take notes because this is not about hacks or a clever way to hit on that FOMO part of our SEO brains. Just understand that there are no protected interests in the world of SEO testing. The only thing that is sacred is the desire to learn what's going on and what's working and what may be behind it. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 45 of Confessions of an SEO. I want to thank Ahrefs for being the sponsor of Confessions for the last 6 months. There is nothing like having a sponsor like Ahrefs to find out what it means to up your game on analytics. You can always find the most recent episode on confessionsofanseo.com, and not just the latest episode, but all of them. And you can subscribe to Confessions on whichever platform you get your podcasts. It really is a great way to both support this podcast and help others find it. Last week's episode was a debunking of the chatter about some update that might have been an unannounced Google update. And well, I brought in some additional explanations to offer because I think as professional SEOs, we need to have more than two crayons. You know, things are more than just an update or no update. So check out the Halloween Google update that never was. I might still have something to say on this. But getting back to the important things. Only 8 more episodes left in Season 5. And I wondered if you might, maybe for a change of pace, like a montage of things that I'm either working on or that snagged my SEO brain between now and the end of the year. First off, I guess I do want to talk about the hullabaloo about what do we even call what we now have to do in our industry. Because now that we're sort of fully disrupted as search engine thoughts and conversations and all of that, and moved into this answer engine that Google and all the other AIs basically trained on our content, and they answer those questions. So now no one really has to ever go to a website again, right? So if click data is extrapolated out across the future horizons, I mean, obviously publishers, people whose income comes from what they put out there, this is hugely important. So, but I'm not saying that the discussion about what we call it is, okay? So a lot of people go like, is it GEO? Now GEO, GEO, is short for Generative Engine Optimization. You know, all those overlays when you look like even in Google, being mentioned in those overlays where people can find your website. Or some call it AIO, Artificial Intelligence Optimization. Or, and this is a very large portion of us, is it all really just still SEO, search engine optimization? Now, even though it's fun to have these debates about how different or similar they are, I think it's none of those. I think, whether you like it or not, we're at the intersection of marketing and IR. And IR stands for Information Retrieval. Sometimes I put a word in between that, and I can't say it. Now, just when you thought, it was time to stop apologizing, for not being a programming engineer, see how I pulled you right back into it? It's no longer enough to have a checklist of keyword vectors. You need to have a more broad and deeper understanding of how these machines, how they are able to retrieve information that they have control over. Sucks, right? I have a lot of fun with Claude and Perplexity, and I'm not coding. I'm just poking the bear here. And so I ask him, just this hypothetical, what happens when all the plumbers in Austin are clearly understood as being plumbers in Austin? How are they, as AI, going to be able to determine which 3 plumbers they think are the best plumbers in Austin? And then they tell me their answer, and I say, okay, now all those plumbers again now have the same amount of positive reviews. Now what are you going to do? You can see where I'm going. It's turtles all the way down. Recently, in a mastermind group, there was a very intense discussion about semantic triples. For anyone not familiar with what they are, I think you likely already know them as something. And when I tell you what the 3 pieces are of a topical relationship, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. Now, in local SEO, the mantra of success, and when I say success, like ranking in the maps, where people can find you, you likely already know them as something. And these, when you connect them or create the signals, that when you wire them up, they communicate to Google, and Google notices them. And these are those 3 things: who you are, what you do, and where you do it. And of course, math got fun when they started throwing the alphabet into it. It's all about, in some ways, parts of speech. It's all about language, parts of sentences, the foundation of communicating and recording knowledge. Carolyn lives in Austin. The Eiffel Tower is in Paris. The chair is made of wood. Now, if you're marketing a business, this is what is essential that Google and all the other machines need to see with words. We have to spell it out. Carolyn provides SEO services in Austin, Texas. Indexilla is an online indexer platform. What we're doing is expressing a relationship in a simple, understandable, semantic way using words, which probably is an oxymoron. So we are able to, when we do this, it's like we're organizing together the components so we know what it means with our human minds, and machines can understand it, what that means, without having a human mind. Best place on a website, hands down, I believe, to communicate some of this is going to be our About Us pages. I'm reminded of my first outside SEO client. They were in data erasure software. And first time I heard about this, I was reading their entire site. And afterwards, I did not have the first clue about what they really did. They were engineers. They were at the time essentially as clear as mud on their site when it came to using words related to precisely what they did. Now, by the time that project was done, of course, we had 4x'd their revenue. And if memory serves, and I got started, I think they were stuck at 1.2 million when we started. So at the end, their main competitor, the one who I had used to reverse engineer for my client, they ended up buying my client in the end. So mark my words. We're in the information retrieval optimization business. And maybe let me refine that. We're in the successful information retrieval business. But maybe we always were, is my point. Now that that's done and dusted, I feel compelled once again to offer an alternative explanation to the ongoing, I'm trying hard not to pound my desk, ongoing volatility discussion again by another article on Search Engine Roundtable by Barry Schwartz. I'm really pulling for you here, Barry. You're definitely seeing volatility, but it's not a change in the scoring algorithm. It's a batch processing of content that occurs every 3 to 6 days now. Anybody who's listened to last week's, you know probably where I'm going with this. I did leave a comment on the article this time. There is no boogeyman under the bed. There is no secret update that Google is trying to pull over on us. The data just doesn't support. There are naturally occurring data dumps, which are a feature when you work with Google products like their searchable index. The data in our Search Console is never real time. It is never up to date. Like at the moment of this recording, the data in our Search Consoles is 7 days behind where we are in the calendar. Normally it's 2. But if you're looking at the testing of the Chrome builds and such, Google can get behind on these things because they're testing and pushing and rolling different crawlers up to various Chromes. And when Google tests, it's on their side of things, which means they're not flowing out in real time new or revised data in Search Console. Oh, we may see our content as indexed. It's just not served into the searchable index. But we need to see how these two things go together. A delay is part and parcel of the Google Analytics GA4 and Search Console. Both of them are, we call it 2 days, but it's basically 48 hours delayed. Nothing is fresh in that data. And it's so much a part of what is going on that technically one could say it's not a real delay because it was never intended to be available faster than 48 hours. I mean, that's its ETA, 48 hours. And when you batch process, guess what? At some point, you do have to push things out. Like it or not, search position is a zero-sum game. When one person goes up, it makes another listing go down. You get a lot of that, and you have higher than normal volatility, which is why I say volatility is just movement. Therefore, logically, this cannot be an update in which rules are changing. What happens generally with this normal volatility, and after they pushed out this data dump, some will be very pleased. And typically, that's the ones that moved up. Some will be very displeased. And typically, that's the ones that were pushed down when the others were moved up. But normal volatility, if you look at it, it's 1 to 2 up or 1 to 2 down, which creates a 4-position swing. You know, if you're up at the higher end. Anyway, you get my point. So maybe one day I'll be able to just let these discussions alone, but I believe that there are better things to do with our time, like knowing whether or not a URL where we have a backlink can be indexed. But that's a story for another day. That's it for me this week. Thank you for being a listener. I appreciate the comments that have come in. If you have one, you can text confessions at 512-222-3132. Indexilla is my indexer tool. You can find it at indexilla.io because now more than ever, AI makes the indexation of your content into Google and Bing essential. Don't leave it to chance. I'm considering something for Crawl or No Crawl in the new year. If you want to be notified, make sure you've signed up at Crawl or No Crawl on Substack. Just Google it, you'll see it, and you're going to love it, I promise. Thank you for listening, and until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.